Look, Joe, I really don't want to explain myself right now, okay?
This shot right here has had the single most impact on my career as a director and cinematographer more than any other scene or shot in any film. You're probably looking at it saying it's very underwhelming, and that's just the point. They place the camera on the key side of the light. There's these ugly circles under the character's eyes. It's just not pretty lighting. They had a $5.5 million budget for this film, which is modest, but still decent for an indie film. They could have lit this however they wanted to. But looking at this unlocked something for me. I realized what separated Hollywood cinematographers from me, and that's the ability to embrace imperfection. Perfect is not perfect. This is arguably the most important scene in The Sound of Metal. And had they lit it so perfect with pristine lighting and backlighting and all the tricks that we tell you to do on YouTube, it would not have felt authentic. It's scenes like this that give me the confidence to focus solely on story and allow the lighting to be secondary. And I want to give you some tips today on how to embrace this with your cinematography. Cinematic can actually be imperfection, and it's kind of what I'm striving for a bit in my cinematography recently. Not to get sloppy, but to actually look at what feels real and to make sure that not everything lines up the way that you feel it should, but the way that it actually is. You'll see a lot of cinematographers embracing this. I think of the 4th season of Succession. Kate Arsmendi in a lot of these scenes and a lot of these episodes did really heavy top lighting shots here where you're getting that raccoon shadows on the characters' faces in these offices. You look at that and you think, wow, it shouldn't be like that. But again, this is the 4th season and you want to be steeped in the reality of this show. And so the cinematographers made a bold choice not to make it look perfect. When I was looking at Roger Deakins, one of the best cinematographers of all time, who won his first cinematography award after many attempts at the Academy Awards with Blade Runner 2049, you'll see how much of the lighting misses Ryan Gosling's face, the character K. There is no front lighting, there is no key lighting, there's barely a catch light in his eyes. He's completely backlit with only a little bit of ambience here on the right side of his face. But that's the whole point. It's not meant to look perfect. At this point in the film, Kay's character is in the dark on many things that are gonna come to fruition in the film. And looking at this shot of Sapper, yes, there's beautiful, soft, even light on the front of his face, but normally our rules would tell us that he needs to have backlighting, that there needs to be a kicker light on him, that there should be some sort of fill. But this is what happens when you're able to master cinematography, is you begin to take away. You begin to craft it so that it feels authentic. Often the goal of the cinematographer is to design the shot so that it doesn't feel like there was real lights on set. That's a skill, but I will give you some tips today on how to achieve that yourself. So jumping over here to the Cbum film, this actually informed a lot of my edit, but just about every shot here has some level of what we would call imperfection. Whether it's, these are his infamous Birkenstocks. If you're a fan of Cbum, you know he always wears them to the gym and it's created a trend, but we put them off to the side rather than dead center. Dead center would have just felt too perfect and would have felt too staged. Even these shots, I didn't recover the highlights in all cases, just letting it clip and blow out here. So it felt like I didn't set the shot up, which I actually absolutely set the shot up and asked them to do all of this. But leaving the highlights almost clipping, to me, makes it feel more realistic and like I just had captured that in the moment. These reflections here, we could have put this dead center, or we could have just shot the cars in front of us, but instead shooting the windshield here so they're upside down and making sure that it was an asymmetrical framing so we get a bit of the edge of the car here also helps this imperfection feel authentic and feel realistic, which leads us to this next shot of Chris. We could have put a light on his face. I had one in my bag. I could have easily mounted it to the chair in front of him and had his face very bright and very visible, but I wanted this to feel real. This was Chris's 6th title defense. He's in Vegas here, off to that actual event. And I didn't want it to feel like, again, we were shooting a film. And this is why we chose to shoot the teaser in black and white, as it was an obvious choice to want to use color with all these bodybuilders' rich tans. But for the teaser, the first way that we announced the film, we wanted to do things a little less expected. Color felt perfect, and that's partially why we went for the black and white. But the film will be in full color. And I will be doing a full breakdown of that teaser. You guys have added a lot of questions over on that video. Thank you. Can't wait to talk about that. Now, you might might be sitting here saying, Mark, I don't know what perfection is. Well, I actually have a guide and you can download it. It goes through 3 levels of lighting: beginner, intermediate, and more complex, for lighting interviews and generally lighting people's faces. And you can download this guide for free and it will give you a place to start, but then a place to pivot from. This is where I think people begin to master their craft, when they know what is technically perfect, what should be done, but then you can pivot from that. And that's the fun part of filmmaking, is learning the rules so that you can learn to break them. And this guide is part of the art of documentary. We have tons of videos about lighting, cinematography, and authentic storytelling. And we're gonna be doing a huge Black Friday sale. It will be our best sale yet. And that's all I'll say about that right now. This shot here is one of my favorites from the teaser. Chris's face is out of focus. I absolutely had takes where it was in focus, but on my DJI Ronin, clicking on his body to make sure that the muscles were where our eyes were led felt like the right choice. And for me, this begins to feel like a different shot. Or the shot here with his daughter. I absolutely had the information in that window and I can recover that, but I wanted it to feel documentary. I wanted it to feel like we were looking in on a moment with him and his daughter. So letting the background blow out was the right choice. No longer am I caring about his car outside, but I'm actually looking at him and his daughter, even though they're not the brightest part of the scene. Could have added a light into this room, but to me, this just feels more real. After 55 days of production on this, we finally were able to bring some lights into Chris's gym. At first, I was really sad that I couldn't light his gym and that we had to use the natural lighting. But as you can see from these clips from the teaser, it actually really helped the way we were shooting to use the natural lighting. But I did want to make sure we had one day where we could bring lights in and shoot it, and brought in cinematographer Nick Pilecki and filmmaker and gaffer Derek Lamoureux to help light this. Now, the issue is when we lit it, it felt too perfect. So we had to begin shifting the lights. And one small thing that we did is we actually hung a light above Chris and then shifted it off to the side. That can just be one tip for you. If you have a light, try moving your character around. Try feeling what feels the most authentic to you. Try finding a spot where the light doesn't land on them necessarily perfect. Had we put Chris under that light, not only would the light have fallen on him perfectly even, but it would have begun to feel a bit staged, and perhaps that we placed the light in there. So instead, when we shot this here on the Alexa, we placed him off to the side of this lighting. This way we have huge shadows on his face. Only part of his body is actually in frame. And for me, that feels more real. It feels like now that there is an overhead light in this gym and that Chris is perhaps walking in and out of that light source. This can feel like Chris here is under one of these fluorescent lights. But what we actually have there is a giant menace arm with a huge light mat and a ton of black wrap around it, and soft, and a grid, and diffusion. But we've done all of that so that it just looks like a silly old lamp. Same went for this scene. It started feeling kind of like a Batman movie. Like again, it was feeling too staged with their anamorphic flares. Felt like a commercial, like an Under Armour commercial. Chris walking around here. So Derek got out a light and was able to put a slash of light across Chris. At times, we put it on his face, and other times, we just put it across his chest here. You're not gonna see his face. Maybe this feels a bit unexpected, but again, it's like that moment of where I had his face out of focus and his body in focus. To me, this begins feeling more real. It begins feeling more like we walked into the room and Chris happened to be working out, rather than us spending an entire day and a half lighting the space. So when you're approaching your cinematography, think about where's the light and how can I move my character against that light so that it doesn't necessarily land on them perfectly.
Now, when it comes to cinematography, it doesn't matter how good you are shooting, you still have to pitch this vision to your subjects, to the people in the film or the people funding this. One of the most overlooked skills as a creative is how you can pitch your work. And this is why we're actually doing a pitch workshop for the art of documentary. If you want to know more information about that, we put a link below. If you buy any of our courses this Black Friday for art of documentary, you'll get free access to this workshop, or you can join it for $199. It will be on sale this Black Friday. This is a live workshop where you'll get to hear from industry professionals, directors, producers, and agencies about how to build pitch decks, how to express your ideas, what people are looking for these days. And we're even gonna have a section at the end where we'll get to critique some of your pitches. Don't miss this chance. We've never done a workshop like this before, and we wanna help you be able to express and communicate your pitches, your ideas, and your treatments.
So imperfect might not be the right choice for your film, but if you're working on documentary or indie films, or you're trying to make your clients' footage feel more authentic, explore that world, or perhaps you do the unexpected. This is perhaps why I'm such a huge fan of handheld cinematography, because it still feels human at the end of the day. Appreciate you making this far. If you want to learn more about storytelling and cinematography, you can check out our academy, The Art of Documentary. And of course, don't miss out on that free guide that we have down below for lighting. We will be doing a huge sale on Black Friday for Art of Documentary, so make sure to check that out. It will be our best sale that we've ever given yet to date, and that's all I'll say about that. Awesome. Thank you for watching this, and I'll see you in the next one.